My name's Duncan Porteous and my wife's Fiona. We're sort of husband and wife architecture team. This is our own house, which we designed and built over the last few years. So we had an opportunity to buy an old church mission hall, a little plot of land in Lewis, well, in Achmore in Lewis, which is it's absolutely stunning panoramic views over down towards the Harris Hills, over the lochs and things. So we knew it was a beautiful spot, but the old mission hall was a really pretty awful old building, poured concrete walls and asbestos sheeting on the roof, so there wasn't much to be said for it. But we still like to reuse, upcycle old buildings rather than demolish them, so we thought, let's take what there is and embellish it. On the way from Stornoway to the site here in Achmore, there's a whole little old road full of old arries or sheilings, which were old summer houses people used out tending their cattle or sheep or whatever. We take a lot of pleasure in looking at the little arries because they're not designed by architects, but it's almost this exuberant spirit comes out when people build them. You know, it's the summertime, they're away from home, church isn't anywhere to be seen, and so they get the coloured paint out and some ruffled materials and knock some of these buildings together. And they look like happy buildings, so we wanted to create our own summer house. So we wanted it to be handmade and a bit different looking, not like a normal house. So we sort of extended the old mission hall to create a sort of extended red form, which is the Falun red paint, which is the Swedish red, which they use for their summer houses in Sweden. So that was a bit of a link there. Built onto the red simple element, I suppose we did a far more organic timber-clad element.
I suppose standing here, even in the middle of winter, you get a tremendous sense of well-being and connection with the landscape. And to us, that's really important, living in this landscape, feeling part of it. The house is a kind of celebration of that. We didn't want to compromise on the design of the house. We wanted the house to be very exciting, very dynamic in its expression. So that was a huge challenge with the £75,000 budget, because normally people equate almost like good design with the more money that you spend. We had to overcome that obstacle. And the main way we did that was for Duncan to build the house himself. And some of the kind of journey of making the building influenced the design, particularly the more kind of spirited, organic part of the building that's a foil to the main red elongated house. That, I think, for him was a challenge, but it was also a kind of sculptural experiment, and it really sort of challenged his abilities to make things in wood and to express himself in wood. So it was a fantastic journey for us to do this. And again, just getting back to the limits of the budget and the challenges that we had to overcome in that respect, but not letting that restrain our creative processes at all.
I'm Alan Gibson, and my wife Jane and I own this house, which we're coming up to our third year in it. Built as a retirement home, and we also make a bit of extra income running it as a B&B in summer. Two things really, the views definitely, and the views are just stunning, and they're sort of feel-good views because the sea gives you the smell and the sound and everything. And also it's just actually a very easy house to live in. And we sort of fit in it. It fits us and we fit in it pretty well. And it just doesn't seem to be a struggle to live in. The single thing I like most is the way we connect with the sea. So the way we can, the view on a day like this where it's a little bit dreich, and then if you get a better day, you can open the windows and you're there, you smell it, you hear it. So it's that connection with the outside. It's interestingly almost as if the house isn't around you, you're just out there. Yeah, our guests they certainly enjoy the view because it is pretty unique, but also the delicacy of the architecture, the way the building sits very gently and lightly on the landscape and sort of blends in, and the minimalism, because they're used to more traditional, but as they travel around they stay in more traditional Scottish houses, which tend to be rather cluttered and just very different in style from this modern minimalist one.
Hello, I'm Kirsty Maguire, Kirsty Maguire Architects. I'm the architect for this house. This house, as well as being a contemporary take on traditional rural architecture, it's also a very high performing house, so it's the Passive House low energy standard, and it's also an eco house, so it's constructed with timber frame and timber insulation. One of the most fabulous things about the house is the views, and that's something that kept drawing the clients back to this particular site. So the orientation and the views are thankfully line up, which certainly makes my job a little bit easier. Also, the clients have a large family and love to entertain and for everyone to be involved in that. So a large space with the dining table at the heart of the home was really key, but also open plan to the kitchen. So the client's really keen to be part of the family gatherings as well, and she's a keen cook, so the kitchen being open plan was also really important. I love the way that the internal space feels as though it's part of the landscape, and that is part of the large cathedral space that we have, and taking advantage of the views both from the living room level and from the upstairs as well. But also what I love is because the house performs so well, it's extremely comfortable for the clients, and that becomes their new normal. It's not it's not an unusual thing for the temperature to be warm and cozy. It's draft free, and that's really important to them now, and they're looking forwards towards getting older and the things that will be important to them then as well. So all the main accommodation is on the ground floor, but also the fact that they'll be warm and cosy and they don't need to worry about energy bills.
I'm Robin Sutherland. I'm an architect. I essentially work for myself. I have a small practice called Sutherland & Co. Architects based in North Berwick outside of Edinburgh. I worked with Guy, I think the project was completed in 2016, so we're going back a couple of years now. Guy and Vary wanted an extension to their house that created space for their ever-growing family with multiple grandchildren. I forget how many, 9 or 10 I think. And they wanted a space that was apart from the main body of the house and that had kind of very sort of special quality of its own, so it kind of felt like a, for destination, for want of a better word. The biggest challenge and enjoyment in the project really was trying to squeeze as much as possible out of a fairly modest brief and, what was always going to be quite a small extension. So we had a lot of fun exploring different proposals and coming up with a sort of almost three-dimensional jigsaw puzzle where we used, the height of the space, we have the sleeping platform, and lots of sort of nooks and crannies. Well, that was the model that Guy made. We made a couple of development models through the course of the project, and I think that generated a bit of interest and excitement. And Guy was obviously inspired to make a model of his own of the sleeping area, and it's obviously something that's well used by the kids. And I really enjoy the spatial generosity. The entire extension, I think, has a floor area of about 32 square metres, but you wouldn't think it to walk into the space, the ceiling height's over 4 metres. It's a sort of surprising, unconventional space that feels, I think, remarkably generous for its small size. Yeah, we wanted to do something that externally as well as internally had its own identity, but was very much sort of sympathetic to the scale and form of the existing house. So, we've kind of played off the roof form of the house a bit. We've used a material that's completely dissimilar, but has sort of similar sort of tonal kind of qualities and colour to the render of the house. So it has a very distinct idiosyncratic identity, but I think it sits very comfortably with the house, and that's very much where we're at as a practice and what we're trying to do. The feedback's been really positive. Guy and Vary seem to really love the space. They've really made it their own. They have all sorts of plans of how to embellish it and use it. And, I think they're very proud of the fact they can squeeze about 10 family members in it at a time. So they seem to be incredibly happy and still happy, having used it for a year or two now. And it's just really rewarding to see that.
My name's Alan Dixon. I'm Director of Rural Design and responsible for the design of the Invisible House. The Invisible House took its name from the desire to hide the house completely from the road. The original site was a very visible site, but a step in the landscape allowed us to hide the house and then be a wee bit more creative with the design of the house because it was hidden. The house is oriented towards the views, which are an extraordinary series of islands in Loch Dunvegan, and is also designed to take advantage of solar gain, particularly morning and evening light. The most obvious kind of eye-catching part of the design is the stainless steel cladding, which came from a conversation with the client who was keen on using reflective materials on the outside of the building. So that represented a challenge. It's not something we'd done before, but I think after lots of research and lots of investigation, we've ended up with a really interesting texture to the building that is really quite magical, especially when you see it in the flesh. Inside the house is really a 2-bedroom house. All the rooms are oriented towards the view, and lots of glass so that it draws the view into each room. At the back of the house there's a small timber single-storey structure that contains the various kind of utilities, a bathroom and a sauna, which is a special request by the client. I think the cladding is a standout success for the project. Really quite a magical texture. As you move around the building, it seems alive, and this is certainly something we want to continue to experiment with in the future.
My name's Laura. I work at Dulcas Architects, and I was the architect on this project. The most special thing about this site is the view. There's a wonderful view out to sea. We were trying to create a bit of drama, trying to exploit the drama of the site. So when you first enter the building, you don't get the big view straight away. You get little glimpses out to the trees, out to the rocks. And we've built into a natural inlet in the foreshore. So it's a bit of surprise. The main bulk of the building is built into the ground, and the living areas and the main view is experienced from the lower level. So you circulate through the space with light coming from above through a fairly dramatic double height space, which is also used as a place for the books and collection of art and ceramics that the clients have. Then you come into this very dramatic open plan living kitchen dining space with this massive view. And the building cantilevers out over the shore, so you feel like you're hovering above the shore itself. I'm pleased that well, I think it's successful. I think the project met the client's brief but exceeded the client's brief in a way. I think it was an interesting brief, but it has really made the most of a site that was quite tricky. It was a difficult build because of that, but I think everybody involved managed to pull it off, and it's been a rewarding process, definitely, and the clients are very happy. I suppose every time I come down the stairs into that space, I'm still like blown away by that gable of glass, and I really also enjoy the clients' objects and their art in the house. It works really well. It's made it theirs, and it's made it more than it would be as a plain white box. So there's more happening here.